Hi, it's Geoff here from discoverdouble-bass.com. Thanks for checking out another one of these video lessons. Today we're talking about the cycle of fifths, how to use it to practice your scales or arpeggios in all 12 keys, and also an alternative to that, which is a process that I use when I'm teaching called scale pairs. So let's get into that now. Well, let's start with the cycle of fifths. This is a great way to practice your scales, as essentially you're moving through the letters, A, B, C, A to G, in a really musical way that mimics the most common movement between two chords, which is either down a fifth or up a fourth. So if we start in the key of C, say if we're practicing our major arpeggios, C is a great place to start because there's no sharps or flats. And if we move up a fourth each time, C, F, B flat, E flat, I'll list them on the screen so you can see the full run of letters. You'll go all the way around and you'll reach C again. And although the cycle of fifths is used for various different things when you're learning music, I really recommend that you learn at least this order of letters. So you practice your scales moving up a fourth each time. It's a really musical thing to do, and I think it's, absolutely a terrific way to make sure that you're practicing everything in all 12 keys. So that's your first option to learn your scales and arpeggios in 12 keys. Your second option is to use what I call scale pairs. Now, when you're practicing a scale, and there are 12 versions of it because there are 12 keys, we can actually make the process a little bit easier by grouping the scales into pairs that share either the same or very similar fingerings. Now, I'm sure you will have seen this already if you've done a bit of practice. So if you're learning your E minor scale, you may have realized that the fingering is identical to the A minor scale, just one string across. So if you group those two together when you're practicing them, it will help you with your muscle memory. But this process applies regardless of the scale type or the arpeggio type. If you're learning E major, the fingering will be the same as it will be if you're practicing A major. And it also applies with the other ones as well, the other keys that we have as well. So we've got E and A, we have F and B flat. If we look at F major 7, the fingering is the same as B flat major 7. It's the same with G flat and B, or F sharp and B if you prefer to call it that, G and C, A flat and D flat, and lastly D and E. Flat, which I'll come to in just a moment. But you can see how grouping these together will make the process just a bit smoother, and especially when you realize that it's very, very similar or exactly the same when you change into different scale types. So whether it's major, minor, dominant, 7, you can always use these scale pairs. Now the last two, that they're kind of the oddball ones that don't fit perfectly, are D, so if you were D and E flat. Now if you were learning your D major scale, it would be the same as if you were learning your E flat major scale starting on the A string. However, most people learn them starting in half position, and I encourage you to do that as well. So the fingerings are different, but they share the same challenge, which is moving up 2 strings. So shifting is absolutely key. So although they don't fit perfectly, they're still worth grouping them together because you'll be working on shifting up the 2 strings, or they'll be identical if you move across the 3. So it's a very easy concept to understand. I'd suggest that you write out the order of letters for the cycle of fifths and for the scale pairs, and mix your practice up. If you're working on the cycle of fifths a lot, give the scale pairs a try and see if that helps you, and vice versa as well. There's a lot of information with scales to learn, and particularly with the double bass, there's a lot of different fingerings that we can use. So it will take you some time to become fluent in all 12 keys, but these processes will help make everything easier. So I recommend that you add them to your practice routine. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the video today. If you have, please give me a thumbs up on YouTube and it'll encourage me to do more like this one. And if you're really into learning your scales, you can check out the double bass scales play along collection, which is a product of mine on the website to help you learn your scales. So keep practicing hard and I'll see you next time.